Welcome to the Dynasty Vipers Vipercast, where all things football are injected right to your veins. With your hosts, Matt Donnelly, Calvin Shoemake, and Jeff Mueller.
That'd help if I pull us in the screen. What is up? Welcome, everyone, to a special edition Dynasty Vipers. We are excited to be doing our team spotlight series, continuing it here tonight. And we've got a very special all-star cast here to join us to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, Cowboys Nation, America's team. I guess we're still calling America's team, right? Yeah. Come on. So first, without further ado, let's jump into the show because we've got a lot that we're going to talk about here tonight. Calendar flips over to January, February. We start thinking about rookies, thinking about, how much talent they have and all this stuff. And that's good. We definitely want to do that in Dynasty football. But we also need to understand the teams that they're going to find themselves in. We need to pay attention to free agency, to caps, all kind of situations like that. So to break it down with the Dallas Cowboys, we're joined by, first right here, I'll let him introduce himself, Mr. Nate Hamilton. Nate, where can we find you and what you're working on?
Hey, what's going on? You can find me on Twitter where I live every day, every second of every day, too much. I live there more than I live at my own home, which is kind of crazy. So at DominateFF, and you can find my work over at thegameday.com, and you can follow them on Twitter as well at The Game Day NFL.
Very good. Kacey, I'm going to toss it over here to you next, and feel free to tell us about how cold it is there in Dallas.
It's so cold. Oh my gosh. I am I don't even know what to do with myself. Oh my gosh. No, it's not that cold, but it's cold enough where they close down everything. So I'm okay with that. Anyway, so I'm Kacey Kasem. You can find me on Twitter at the Kacey Kasem. I'm also a writer over with the Fantasy Footballers, and I have a podcast called Get Real with Kacey Kasem, where I talk to people in the fantasy football industry.
Yep, and look, don't let those Canadians mess with you, okay? Like, if Matt or any of those guys give you problems about how cold it is, like, hey, it gets cold.
Us.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
Jason, what's up, man? Where can we find your work?
Hey, what's going on? Jason Waltner. You can find me at DFFJ Waltner on Twitter. Also on the gram, same thing. And going to be restarting Capology 101 actually very, very soon. I'm excited to do that. So get that going again.
The cap situation in Dallas might come up a time or two here, Jason. But, hey, why don't we go ahead and start? Because a couple of you guys are not from the Dallas area. You are from the New England area, you said originally. So just tell us, Jason, how did you become a Cowboys fan? And just a little bit about your history with the team.
Sure. So I became a Cowboys fan. My first season being a fan was 1989 when they were 1-15 and Aikman was on his back pretty much every time. So funny story. My grandfather on my mom's side is extremely religious. So he was watching the news one day and he saw the interview with Roger Staubach where he was on TV and said, he likes to have sex just as much as Joe Namath, but he only does it with one woman. My grandfather was like, that's my guy. So that's how my mom's side of the family became Cowboys fans. And then my uncles got me in. So like I said, the first year they sucked, but then shortly after, we all know, 3 or 4 rings. So it kind of made it a little easy right there. But that's how I got started. So it's a family thing. My dad wasn't very happy, though. He's a Giants fan. He's not happy at all, at all.
Nate, you're from the similar area up there in New England. Tell us about how you became a Cowboys fan.
Yeah, so I live in New Hampshire, but I was born and raised in Lowell, Massachusetts. So I am from New England, always born and raised. I've been here all my life. But baseball was actually my first passion for sports. So I'm a hardcore Red Sox fan. However, the Patriots at the time of me growing up, they weren't very good. When they made the playoffs, they were eliminated first round by the Browns. So it was very frustrating to even try to root for them. So I never really felt, a connection with the Patriots. So oddly enough, 2006, Tony Romo steps on the scene. And this is after all the championships. So this is where I get hate from both sides. Like the Cowboys truthers and real fans, like from back in the day, they're like, oh, you're a bandwagon fan. But it's like I stepped in when they started losing. So you can't even say that. Like I've stuck with them this whole time. But Tony Romo, I was just flicking through the channels one day. And again, not really tied to the Patriots. And Tony Romo made a play. I just stopped it. And he made a play where he eluded the entire defense and threw like a 34-yard touchdown pass. And out of nowhere, I just celebrated it. I was like, yes, that was the best thing ever. And I was hooked. Cowboys fan ever since. But it's one of those things like, you know, when I tell people, hey, I'm a Cowboys fan because of Tony Romo, they're like, yeah. So it's like, I don't get the love on either side. But hey, you know, you can't, you know, help who you love, right?
No.
And it's so funny because sometimes you figure out like who you're rooting for in the moment. Like in the Super Bowl, like I celebrated when the Buccaneers scored, and I was like, I guess that's who I'm going for now. All right, exactly. That happens. Kacey, what's up? I'm so excited that you're here. Tell us a little bit about your history with the Cowboys.
So I'm north of Dallas by about 30 minutes, and so I've been a Cowboys fan my entire life. Even though I guess my dad's from Pennsylvania, he's been an Eagles fan since, you know, before he had me. And then when he got married to my mom, she kind of converted him to a Cowboys fan, which is like a big no-no, you know, you're an Eagles fan and now you're a Cowboys fan. Yeah. And then after
that's a very powerful woman.
She was very powerful. And then so now he lives back in Pennsylvania, to help his mom out. And he's a huge Cowboys fan, living in like my cousins, my aunts, my uncles, everybody up there are Eagles fans. So every time I go to visit, it's like, don't throw batteries at me. It'll be okay. Life will be okay. But I've been a Cowboys fan forever. And I remember the Super Bowls barely, you know, I really wish those Super Bowls would come now when I'm an adult and can like actually savor those moments. But even like Nate was talking about Romo, like I remember when Romo went in halftime of that game for Bledsoe and like took over, and I was watching it over at a friend's house and like started screaming and she had no idea why. And I was like, because this dude, like I knew it. And oh my God, it was so exciting. That's it.
Well, it's so funny though, because like I'm sitting down probably like an hour before the show starts, and I just want to look at a few things, whatever, before we jump on here. And I go down this rabbit hole of just Tony Romo career highlights. And that's what I did for 40 minutes before we even jumped on. So that's how prepared I am.
That's awesome.
I think I did that with my dad when he came to visit for Thanksgiving. I think I got wasted and like turned on Tony Romo highlights. The next day, my YouTube history was like Tony Romo to Dose Bryant and all that stuff. You know?
Exactly.
Gosh, that's one of those guys that was just not appreciated at his time, right? I mean, like, I don't think anybody ever gave him enough credit for just how good he was. And some of those teams even surrounded him were just fun to watch. Like, Marion Barber is not a big name, but I had so much fun watching Marion Barber.
Yeah. And you can retire at 28 and be like, hey, dude, okay.
Yeah, I think I saw like he's like third right now in touchdowns rushing career touchdown for the Cowboys. I mean, Zeke's about to pass him, but it just shows you like he only played for 4 or 5 years for the Cowboys. I mean,
because he dished out all the hits, man. Like I call him, he's like the bumper car without a bumper. Like that was Marion Barber, man. It was awesome.
Man, it was.
Well, he was pre-beast mode. He was pre-beast mode.
Yeah.
Like the greatest 2-yard run in history or whatever that was, but he was in the end zone. And like everybody knows exactly what I mean because that was an amazing run. But
absolutely. That's one of the best runs I've ever seen. Best 2-yard run ever.
The Cowboys had some things to cheer about this year, but it was a little bit, obviously it wasn't the year you wanted.
What are you talking about?
2020.
What cheer for what?
Ceedee Lamb, baby.
Yeah, okay, there you go. All right, you know what? There you go. All right, Nate, I'll give you that. Good call.
Thank you.
So, Kacey, let's start with you. Like, what was
Diggs was giving us a little bit of hope there in the beginning. That was fun.
What was 2020 like being a Dallas Cowboys fan, Kacey?
It was like what a weight lifted off of my shoulders to have to worry whether or not they're actually going to be a good team this year. Like after Dak went down, like your heart breaks and you feel like crap. He's crying going off the field and you're crying, seeing him cry. It's like, oh my God, and then the quarterback situation where, Andy Dalton gets a concussion, he gets COVID, all that jazz. Like it was just it's been a really, really, really messed up roller coaster.
Yep. Nate, kind of similar for you. I mean, obviously it's the first time you're watching a brand new coach in a while. So very different year.
So I had high hopes, right? I mean, we got an actual coach that has made it deep into the playoffs. And, I was super happy about it. And I don't know, man, like I know Dak wasn't there for the majority of the season, but as the season went on, I couldn't help but question a lot of what the coaches were doing. Like I didn't understand a lot of plays that were put together. So that in itself was very frustrating. But, you try to it's a lost season after week 5 when he went down, so when Dak goes down, it's a lost season. You had some hope at the beginning, then you saw Andy Dalton play and you realized, no, it's done. So you try to just pay attention to the things that carry over. And for me, Ceedee Lamb was the highlight for me. And that was something that, we'll talk about a little bit later because there's something on the doc that I'll bring him up on. But yeah. And, all the Zeke hatred needs to stop because that's ridiculous. And, he was most productive when Dak was on the field. And then obviously, defenses know we're not planning for freaking Andy Dalton. We're planning for Zeke. And yeah, I mean, I'm not going to discredit the fact that Zeke did look not Zeke at times, but maybe his will and self-motivation kind of went out the window when, his protection left him. So that's how the season went for me, I guess.
It seemed like there were definitely some times where he looked injured. I mean, you're right. He didn't look like himself. When
Pollard would come in to spell him and take over for a little bit, and then he came back after he was a little bit more refreshed, or even after the injury. He looked so much better when he came back. Mm-hmm. Just having that little bit of rest.
Yep. Jason, any other thoughts on 2020?
I just throw it down the toilet. So I guess the one disappointing thing for me, besides the 6-10 record, was not really being able to evaluate much on offense, and not even just from a perspective of just missing Dak, just how our offensive line was just completely demolished. We were literally on our 3rd and 4th string outside tackles. We lost our starters, then we lost our backups, and then we were on our second, our 3rd set. So, at that point, what can you really evaluate? And then once Martin goes down, what was that, week 12?
Yeah.
Then it's just oh my God. Now the only starter we have left is Connor Williams, which I don't know if anyone here is excited about that guy. Yeah, exactly. So there's really no fair way to evaluate the offense. So that's kind of, and then obviously the defense is, oh my God, what a disaster. Just a fire dump just left and right. So it was just bad all around.
Kacey, I want to start with you on this question because it is true with the Dallas Cowboys. You spent a long time having the same coach there. The Clapper took his talents to the Giants, and he left a void. But Kellen Moore stayed. Mike McCarthy took the reins. You've got now a new defensive coordinator, Mike Nolan, out the door, which that was probably for the best, and Dan Quinn comes in, which he's got some chops. What's your overall, just on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence level in the coaching staff right now?
I'm gonna drop it a little bit because they haven't proved to me that, but I feel like they still have room to improve, and they still have I think they can do it. So I'm gonna give them a 7 for right now, and a 7's good in the NFC East. So I'll do that.
Nate, does that sound about right?
Yeah, if we're gonna rate it a 1 to 10, I'll give it a 7 right now, just because anytime a change in coaching staff happens with the Cowboys, my hope meter goes up, because it's I know that a change is needed, and it's not the talent on the field. The talent on the field, this team has underperformed every season since I started watching them. Like, they've always had the talent. It's not about that. It's about the coaching staff and the I don't know, the atmosphere and everything else that's the culture, I guess, that's created there in Dallas. And, elephant out of the room, and it's been talked about a million times. Jerry Jones needs to just hand over the reins to somebody and just sit back and watch from the press box and not try to control every little thing. I'm starting to see that, which is hopeful and making me feel a little better about the future. But he still has a hold on it. And I think until that truly goes away, we're going to continue to see underperforming from this team, because there's only so much the talent on the field can do if you're not getting the support from the background and, everybody in the coaching staff.
So Bob, you should be the next GM, Nate.
Hey, I'm I'll do it. Sure. Why not?
Jason, what about your thoughts on the coaching staff? And then I want to come back to you and ask some cap questions too. So get ready.
Oh boy. So the coaching staff again. I mean, well, how can you really evaluate them with all the injuries, especially on the offensive side? I mean, any coach, even the tuna. What could you expect him to do with what was his name? DiNucci. I like to say.
Oh, yeah, Ben DiNucci.
That's just a fun name to say.
Yeah, Ben DiNucci. Yeah.
How we expect to do with that guy? You know what I mean? Like, so. I honestly, I mean, I know everyone's going 1 to 10. I'm going to give it a nice big I for an incomplete. They didn't finish the semester for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean,
I've changed my answer. I changed my answer.
And then the one thing that would really make me question though was the choice to go with Mike Nolan. Just such a big change on defense. When we have the pieces for a 4-3 hit and run defense, and just changing something totally different. I pray so much that will solve a lot of problems to make us not look. We just need to be like average. You know what I mean? Like, we don't even need to be great on defense. We need to be average. So hopefully it just makes take that step. But yeah, incomplete.
So let's talk about the cap then, because that's obviously for any of these, for whoever the coach is, it doesn't matter. Like, you got to find a way to fit everybody under the cap, and you've got some room. There's like about 27 million or so under the cap, if I'm looking at everything right. I'm sure you'll correct me if not. But for people who don't know, you are kind of a cap expert. You understand the cap really well and contracts and all that. You look at this stuff all the time, and I'm sure you look at it especially with your team, the Cowboys.
I do.
So. But you've got a pretty big undrafted or unrestricted free agent hanging out there right now in Dak Prescott.
Dak Prescott. Oh my gosh. Yeah. So so the one thing right now they have the cap at 210 million. I don't know if it's going to be that high, to be honest. So I would actually cut this cap in half and probably have a $15 million in cap space. I mean, Dak's even on the books, and he's going to be for 38. I mean, they're going to start moving a lot of money around. It's going to be tons of fun doing that. I hate restructuring, but I mean, they might just have to do it. Obviously, there's some guys they can cut. I mean, you hear people rumble. I don't know how you guys feel. I hear the rumblings of cut Tyron Smith. I think you are absolutely insane. Yes, thank you, Nate. I like that look. If you think they should be cutting Tyron Smith, you are absolutely off your rocker.
That's not it.
That's not it, right? That's not it. Remember what happened with Dak? I mean, obviously, I hate to say this, but what happens to Dak every time when Tyron's gone? I mean,
domino effect. Boom, boom.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the biggest question mark. And honestly, that domino needs to fall first before any other domino can fall. And it's just at that point, once Dak takes that much space and you're moving money around, we're not going to be able to do anything else. Like, literally nothing else. The only way
you're saying 38 if he's franchise tagged, right?
Right.
So then they need to freaking sign him. I mean, I know it's not gonna, it's probably gonna increase it, but they can play around with years and how they do contracts. And to me, slapping a franchise tag on the guy, I don't think that's not the answer. I mean, they need to they've got a top guy at quarterback. It's ridiculous. I tweeted out just before we even started this that he played half the games that Andy Dalton did with the Cowboys and only had 313 fewer passing yards. So, you know, and Andy Dalton played 10 games and Dak Prescott played 5 or 4.5, however you want to word it.
Right.
So for me, I mean, Dak is the number one priority, and then you fit everything else because they've got the offense, like they've got that down. Yeah. They just need to. And we're talking about salary cap. When was the last time the Cowboys didn't have a problem when it came to salary cap? Right? They always somehow kind of figure it out.
Yeah.
So, but they need to take care of Dak, and if they don't do that, and they try to get too cute with things, then we're just back to square one.
So
at least you're not 100 million on over the cap like the Saints. So it could be worse. Kacey, it definitely sounds like Jason and Nate are on the team of like definitely keep Dak. They're not every Cowboys fan is there.
I'm not on that team. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're not.
There we go. I had a feeling he wasn't. Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah.
So okay.
I'll let you say first, and I'll tell you what I said.
Okay, so first of all, let me premise this with I do not hate Dak, all right? Because that's what everyone thinks. If you know that, yeah, see, you're a Dak hater. Okay, yeah. So they call me a Dak hater, and then just for fun, I call them Dak Riders. Get it, Dak Rider. Nice. So here's the thing, and I guess my just big issue is that Dak seems very concerned about getting his next contract before this contract. His whole thing is that he wants to hit free agency in 2024 when the new TV money comes in. He wants to be one of the guys getting, $50 million a year or something like that because the money's just going to blow up. And it's just, if you want to be a Cowboy for life, sign a 5-year deal. You know what I mean? Like, why are you so worried about getting your next bag before you get the first one? So, and I know everyone sit there and say, well, Wentz signed a 4-year deal, Watson signed a 4-year deal, Goff signed a 4-year deal. Well, I get they were 4-year deals, but they were 4-year extensions that gave the team 6 years of control. And then the big money, and then everyone always wants to say, the market is the last deal signed, right? Well, the last big deal signed was Mahomes for 10 years. So, so now I'm hearing Dak. I don't know how true this is, but word on the street is now he wants 3 years with a voidable 4th. So, and look, I'd be fine with that if we had tons of cap space. But the issue with that is it just makes it hard to spread the money out throughout the deal. And we're gonna have to cut. So we're gonna have to cut other guys as a result of that. And
I get where you're coming from, but for me, it's like it's a business decision, right? And we're running a business, and just as the team would treat a player as a business, I think the players are nowadays are realizing, hey, you know what? We've got power. We're going to treat this as a business as well. And honestly, what offers have come through for Dak? I know he did get one, I think, prior to the season that was pretty significant. But outside of that, it's not like they're continuously throwing deals at Dak where he's just shooting everything down.
I heard the last deal was 5 years, $175 million with over $110 million guaranteed.
Wow,
Kacey, get in here. Inspired by your wall painting there. Is it Mo Money, Mo Problem? For the
nice, Calvin.
Yes, I like the segue right there. So about this, I've been all over the place. Oh my gosh, my brain hurts from it being all over the place, just like in the last, however long it's been going on. My whole dream was actually that Matthew Stafford would come to Dallas. And so
Matt. I know. I was saying it. Come home.
Since that didn't happen, it kind of screwed up my whole entire thing because I was like, Dak's going to go to the Colts and blah, 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 blah. But that didn't happen. So, all right. At least the Matthew Stafford part didn't happen. So I would like to see them sign Dak. I know that it is also a business thing. Like, of course, they're loyal people. Dirk Nowitzki was with the, Mavericks his entire life. And, he did what he had to do and all that stuff. But that's a different breed of person, a person that's like that super loyal to a team that it's like, so I don't blame Dak. And I know his brother gets on social media a lot and talks about like where and when and all this other stuff. So I hope they can find a way to figure out that the whole Zeke Elliott getting signed, like getting his contract the way he did, and then what the treatment that Dak has been getting, it just kind of makes me scratch my head.
The only reason why I can see those deals got done just from a management standpoint is those are seen as low-hanging fruit. Those guys signed 6-year deals. Zeke was under contract then for 8 years. Zeke's deal is really only a 4-year deal for $10 million a year. You know what I mean? By the time he's 27, which we all know is that hill that Stephen Jones always talks about where they look to cut guys, that's when he'll finally be like a $15 million cap hit, and we can cut him and save like $13 million. So, you know, I mean, and the thing, and Amari Cooper, you know, they signed him to a huge deal, you know what I mean? But he gave them some lateral movement so they can move some money around and everything like that. He could actually be cut next year and we would save like $15 million in doing it, but they won't do that. Well, what they'll probably end up doing is they're probably using the fact that they have such a little dead money as a reason to restructure contracts and just move the money down the line. And that's how they're going to make space for this year, is like by restructuring a guy like Amari Cooper and things like that. So, I mean, look, I mean, for me, I mean, here's my thing. I mean, and if Dak would have done this, I would have had no problem with it. Sign the 5-year deal. When year 4 comes, hold out like Zeke did.
Yeah, I mean, he could do that. So I know this podcast or this episode isn't really fantasy based, but I look at fantasy numbers all the time. That's my thing. And you know, it does translate to NFL. And you're talking about a guy, Dak Prescott, who played 4.5 games, whatever you want to call it. And he finished in PPR points or in fantasy football points ahead of Sam Darnold, who played in 12 games. So, I mean, you're talking about a guy who played a quarter of the season, still finishing ahead of a guy who played 3/4 of a season, who is a starting quarterback. That to me, and he's been like what, top 11 every season in his career prior to last year, obviously, because he played a quarter of the season. He's been a top 11 quarterback every year. So to me, the dude is a top-notch player. He needs to stay here because I don't think there's an answer anywhere else. Like that's my take on Dak. I think that, you know, it took a lot for me to even like him because I was such a Tony Romo fan, and I was like,
that's
oh man, they did Romo so bad, you know, like that's crap. What Tony Romo did, they just wanted the shiny new toy.
Wait, Nate, I think your mic cut out.
Yep.
Oh, whoop, there it is.
I forgot about that. That was that happened in our other show too. But yeah, we missed like the last 30 seconds.
Yep, you're on mute.
Now you're muted. Is this like a?
It happened to me last time.
Every 30 minutes, my mic mutes out. I don't know what it is.
That's just an epic homage to Dingus right there, because he definitely does that at least once a show. So I like.
It's once or twice a show for me. So
keeps it going. It keeps it going.
I'm just saying that it took a while for me to like Dak because, they did Tony Romo wrong with the shiny new toy. But then I realized, dude, this guy is for real. Like he's a true talent in the NFL. His numbers speak for itself. At the end of his career, if he sticks with the Cowboys, he's probably going to lead in every category. He's going to surpass Tony Romo in so many things, which to me is crazy impressive. Mm-hmm. And if they don't hold on to somebody like that, it's just this perpetual thing with the Cowboys where they think that what they're doing next is smarter. And if they're not signing Dak, I think it's the wrong choice. So that's how I feel about it.
I mean, they got lucky with Romo. They got lucky with Dak. It's just so you were going to cut Romo at one point. He was like 4th on your depth chart or whatever. Like you got super lucky. You think that's going to happen again?
Remember, Dak was battling with Jamil Showers. Showers, he was a perverted cornerback. Yeah.
I remember I was in Mexico when all that stuff happened, and I was like, "What did I miss?"
Yeah, so I don't know. I know, but one thing, I mean, and I understand this could be oversimplifying it to the very, very much, but I mean, I understand what you're saying from offensive production standpoint, but when Dak put up his best career numbers, and look, I get it. Again, it's oversimplifying. We were 8-8. and he was killing it last year. And what were we, 1-3? An onside kick away from being 0-3. So I mean, and then in last year when we were 8-8, I think the offense averaged 27 points a game, and that's with almost no injuries. We were decimated this year, and we averaged 25. So, I mean, so you're telling me Dak's only worth 2 points and 2 wins for $40 million a year?
Well, I mean, that's a small sample size right there, I think.
I got 4 years to go on, and if I go back further, I could even say the times the least we relied on Dak, our team was overall better.
Well, I think our problem for a long time has been the defense.
Yeah,
and that's really what it is.
That's
like
what they need to address, like hardcore.
The Cowboys are continuously playing catch up. They can score 30 points a game, and it's still not enough. I mean, that's the problem with this team, and that's what needs to, they need to focus on offensive line to give any talented quarterback in the NFL time to make plays. Because if they're protected and they get 7 seconds to freaking throw the ball, good things are going to happen no matter who's back there. So I'll give you that, right? So if they can actually keep that down and actually have people behind, expect the injuries, right? You're going to have backups that are going to step in and produce and as if like the starter didn't go down. I know that's like kind of speaking fantasies, but that's number one. And number two, defense needs to help you win football games. I mean, look what just happened in the Super Bowl. I mean, the favorites, Kansas City Chiefs, man, is it Patrick Mahomes in his entire career, high school, college, and NFL, has never played a single game where his offense did not score 1 touchdown. And that happened in that game because the Tampa Bay defense freaking stepped up and they won 31-9. So the Cowboys, they have flashes on defense where it's like, yeah, but you want to know something? I find myself over the last 14 years now watching them like every day where they get an interception. I'm like, oh my God, it's like it's never happened before. Yeah. Holy crap, they just got a turnover. Like, it's so awful. Like, they need to create turnovers and create pressure, and that's something they've struggled with for many years. And that's where the focus needs to be for this team.
Kacey, I'll start with you as we transition here, I guess, to the draft, because that's kind of, you mentioned cornerback or secondary being a definite need for the team. I saw on Twitter. Is that kind of where you expect them to go, or do you think maybe that offensive line gets a look there at 10?
That's where I've been kind of debating if they don't trade out, because I really would like that to happen, but that's like a dream scenario for me. I was listening to the radio actually on the way to the liquor store earlier, and they were talking about the same situation, O-line versus a cornerback and who would be available and so on and so forth, and who you could plug in there. And Jeff Kavanaugh brought up a good point that you can find cornerbacks in the 3rd and 4th round that are actually, guys you can plug in and start right away, and they look awesome. O-line is kind of more on the shaky side when it comes to being able to just plug somebody in. And so if you can get a guy in the 1st round that has that caliber, I know that they were talking about Slater. They were talking about Surtain and Farley being the 3 guys. And I don't know much about college football, but looking at what I was looking at earlier today, I was like, okay, so I think any of those guys would be good fits for the Cowboys. But I kind of would like to wait just a little bit on cornerback and try to get somebody in the 3rd round or whatever.
Jason, they shocked the world last year when they drafted Lamb. I mean, nobody expected that. Are we getting Najee Harris to the Cowboys? Is that what's going to happen?
No, that's definitely not going to happen. But I mean, okay, so I mean, I'm just a firm believer. You just at that position on the board, you just take the best player available. And I actually believe that seeing them take CeeDee Lamb last year proved that they were sticking to their board of best player available. Because obviously he was in a position of need. So I definitely would like cornerback. There's only 2 of them from what I'm understanding. Me too as well. Big JC 1053 fan here. And the draft show. Shout out to those guys. And I listen to those guys every day. And I mean, it seems like there's only like really 2 cornerbacks that are like really the cream of the crop of this class, which is Farley and Surtain. So, there's a chance both of them could be there. But now me personally, if it were down to O-line versus a cornerback, I personally would go O-line as a tiebreaker, just because I'm just a firm believer in the game. You win the game in the trenches, and a solid front on either side can hide stuff in the back. So that's why I would go that. So Slater would probably be a nice option there if he's available. I would like to throw a wrench in here too, and say don't you dare think that Jerry's not going to be eyeing maybe one of these quarterbacks.
I knew you were going to say.
If they start sliding a little bit, I mean, hey, you see Jerry make a move because look, man, like let's say they really like Zach Wilson, for example, and he starts sliding down, or who knows, maybe they even call the Jets up and the Jets are like, we're going to stick with Darnold, which I don't think they're going to do, but or Tua, or the Dolphins, let's say they're going to stick with Tua and they trade up, and let's say Zach Wilson, they go to that's their guy. Like we've seen teams do it, like the Chiefs, they went up from 20 something all the way up to 12. They went and got their guys. So I mean, that's just don't mix Jerry out with that. So and then the biggest event for me is Pitts. I mean,
yes,
if he's there at 10,
I was thinking that.
how do you turn that guy down? From what I'm seeing, like, people think he's the best. He's the second best prospect, period, behind Lawrence in this draft. So. I mean, geez, imagine that. Imagine Lamb, Pitts. I mean, because Gallup's. I mean, we're not able to keep Gallup. We're not. We all know that, right? We all know
Blake
that.
Jarwin would still be there, man. That would be
really.
That would be just like
you're not going to take Pitts because of Jarwin.
No. I'm saying no. I'm saying as well. So it's like you've got 5 freaking options that are elite options to throw to, including 6 if you include.
Yeah, not to mention.
Yeah.
Right.
There would be such a disgusting offense. It wouldn't matter at that point what the defense did.
Yeah.
I mean, if you got O-line and Kyle Pitts, you got O-line and Kyle Pitts taken care of, and you're running 2 tight end sets with the 3 top wide receivers on your roster, including a pass catching running back in Tony Pollard and Zeke Elliott. It's ridiculous. Yeah. That offense would be the best offense in the NFL. I don't care. Like as long as Dak is the one throwing to him.
Yeah, and I mean, since they decided last year to take Lamb, we know that they will go best player available if need be. Like if somebody like that falls to you, how do you kind of say no to that? I'm not expecting it to happen, but if it does, like snatch all day. Like that's mine.
I know there's 2 things I don't want to happen. I don't want to see him go to the Eagles or the Giants. I know that's 2 things I don't want to see happen because that's going to be problems for like a decade.
Right. Giants fans seem to be clamoring for Pitts too. That's most of what I'm hearing about that.
Ingram gross.
I don't know. And then it just honestly, him to Philly just makes way too much sense. Like it just makes way too much sense. So
yeah, see you later, Zach Ertz. It would be Goddard and Pitts. Yeah.
Nate, what would that do for the other weapons, though, from a fantasy standpoint? I mean, there's only one ball and only so many plays and only so many pass attempts. What would that do for the fantasy value of the wide receivers?
Well, I think for me, like the way you look at it is initially you'd be like, oh, you have to cut them back a little bit, which to me, I love it because if their ADP drops, I'm thinking, you know what? That just opens up the field for everybody, right? Mm-hmm. So literally anybody could make a huge play on any given time because there's just too much for opposing defenses to even try to, come up with and who to game plan for. So I think I would still hold on to everybody. I'd be buying everyone in that offense, and I wouldn't be worried about the too many mouths to feed. I'd be like, too much open space. I mean, for me, that's what it would be about. And I would want to own as much as possible if that were to come to fruition.
I'm 100% with you on that. Kacey, let me ask you this. So we're the Dynasty Vipers. So we think about Dynasty fantasy football. And I know, Nate, you mostly think about you have a Dynasty, you mostly think about redraft.
Yeah.
But just from a Dynasty standpoint, doesn't the value of some of these guys really hang on whether or not Dak is going to be around. I mean, like, isn't that kind of one of those open-ended things? Like, look, we got Drew Brees transitioning out, Taysom Hill coming in. Everybody's nervous about Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara all of a sudden. If you go from Dak to Ryan Fitzpatrick or something like that, like, doesn't that, Patrick, but like somebody much on a much lower scale, doesn't that kind of change the overall view of what we expect the next 3 to 5 years?
Maybe, but in my opinion, not, because so there's so many mouths to feed. My thought process is somebody's not going to be there, right? So if I buy low on somebody I think's not going to be there, like a Michael Gallup or something, and he gets traded to a team where he's all of a sudden a 2 again and he can produce, then I just like cashed in, ding, ding, ding. And at the same time, too, if you have a guy that's inexperienced who is like a tight end, is my security blanket kind of guy, then I'd be focusing on the tight ends, too. So if Kyle Pitts came to the Cowboys, I mean, I would assume he'd be the top tight end to target, in my opinion, besides like, Kelsey. But, that's just how I feel about it. So I think that they've shown that they can support multiple 1,000-yard seasons from guys. I mean,
Exactly.
Gallup and Cooper did it 2 years ago, and if Dak would have stayed healthy, I mean, sky's the limit.
Could have had three.
Actually, I think Randall Cobb almost had 900 yards.
He did. He was very short. Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, I think this year easily would have happened with 3 1,000-yard receivers.
Oh, for sure.
And then, like, I don't know, man. They would be competing with. It sounds crazy, right? Because it never played out, but I think they would have been competing with Kansas City for the best offense in the league. I mean, that's really what it comes down to.
We were robbed. I mean, we were robbed of like a very special Dak Prescott season because,
sure.
like, I think it was like week 12 when Baker Mayfield finally passed him in pass yards, and he didn't play after like week 4.
Yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about.
I mean, Dak went out catching a touchdown pass, earlier in that game from Cedric Wilson. Like, I mean, right. It was like a season that we could have had, something amazing, and then,
Yeah. So, any other thoughts about like who you guys like targeting in the draft? I mean, obviously, like we don't expect skill position players, even though we're talking about Pitts and that'd be fun, but we don't really expect that, right?
No, probably not.
Probably not, but I mean, we
don't O-line or defensive help, man. I mean, those are the two places of need, honestly.
What about free agency? What like, do you think kind of the same positions are what you expect to be targeted?
What free agency? We have no money.
I mean, that's we don't. That's always the problem, right? That's always the problem with the Cowboys. Is like the cap.
Do anything in the free agency.
So actually, if you actually go back a few years, I'm pretty sure you guys remember there actually was a time when we had like $80 million in cap space.
One time, I remember that one time.
Right.
Yeah.
But what people don't realize, it took like 5 years of bargain barrel shopping in order to get there. You know what I mean? Like that money just didn't come out of thin air, people. You know what I mean? It takes years to develop that money. So,
just like in your dynasty leagues, guys.
Right. And here's the funny part: just as it takes years to develop that money, it takes literally minutes for it to go away. Because then we signed Cooper, then we signed Zeke, then we signed Smith, and there went all the money. You know what I mean? So that's why we couldn't keep Byron Jones and
Byron Jones, man. This mini helmet signed by Byron Jones, man. One of my favorite freaking players.
That's awesome.
That's me. I met him at a fantasy convention and freaking.
So actually,
when he went to the Dolphins. What's that?
I got to shake Rod Marinelli's hand. I was going, so I work out at the Star.
Yeah.
Oh, he's dropping that.
Nice.
I work out.
You're working out at the Star.
Right.
I was working out at the Star. Like,
he's working out. Keep going.
You think I'm going to see him at a Retro Fitness or one of those like little?
I'm sorry. I'm from New Hampshire. I can't work out at the Star. Jason. I'm sorry, buddy.
So, but
workouts. It's okay.
But he was just there walking in because they have to walk through there to get to their facility. So it was just pretty cool. I just walked up to him nonchalantly and said, "Hey, Mr. Marinelli, how are you?" And he just shook my hand. And then I remember seeing David Irving, like literally like weeks before he quit football, was working out Pilates with the ladies in the gym there. So yeah, it was pretty cool. But no, I mean, just as far as this season, it just really sucked. And the draft, I mean, I'm down with Kacey and everyone else. Captain Trade Down.
Captain Trade. Yes. Captain Trade down.
I know.
So yeah.
We haven't talked about it. You know, obviously Dak Prescott, he did have a pretty big injury coming off the field, but it doesn't sound like anybody is really worried about it. Like, do any of you guys have any concerns about, like, if you do sign him, is he going to be a less than he was last year?
Like a little bit, but it's a thought that crosses my mind every now and then. But other thoughts that cross my mind are, if we get another quarterback in here and he sucks immediately, then, I mean, it's kind of the same kind of money-wise, it's not, but you know what I mean? Like, we're still going to be losing.
I think that it does concern me a little bit because it was such a gruesome injury where it takes a lot of time to heal. But I'm hearing that he's been involved in practices and he looks like his, I don't know if I want to say his old self, but he looks like he's a highlight in practices. So as long as I keep hearing those things, I feel encouraged, and I'm hoping that it's not something that hinders his ability going forward.
I've been waiting to drop this, but I actually had the exact same injury as him playing basketball.
Really?
So as an elite athlete myself, I can tell you that, you know, he's gonna be fine. He'll be fine.
Dude, Calvin, thank you so much. You just made my day, bud.
Yeah, you got it.
I just don't think you'll see him running as much anymore. That's all.
Yeah, that's okay though. I mean, that if we're talking dynasty, we're talking like, you know, if we want to keep years on Dak, you know, then fine. You know, that just protects him even more. We've seen Dak Prescott perform on the legs and not needing to do that as well because he's such a freaking great passer, man. It's just like, I mean, yeah, I know. I'm such a freaking fan, right? It's fine. It's cool. Whatever. I own up to it.
I like Dak.
This is the Cowboys freaking podcast that we're talking.
So, right. I'm the only one not wearing Cowboys stuff.
Okay. It's a safe space, right? So, like,
and I'm a Saints fan.
For me,
it doesn't fit. It doesn't fit anymore, guys. Quarantine.
For me, with fantasy football, it's like I have to like take that out, right, and just look at pure numbers and stuff. But right now, I'm taking the opportunity to just, you know, look at what I have been watching, you know, and to me, he gives us the best shot of winning a Super Bowl. And I don't care who else it is coming in. I know somebody else mentioned possibly Deshaun Watson. Like crazy things can happen in the NFL. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate that, but I still think Dak Prescott is a better quarterback than Deshaun Watson.
Really?
I do, yeah.
I do too, but that might be my bias, just being able to watch him more, you know? I don't know.
I do like that. I also know that you like Ezekiel Elliott a lot, Nate. So I guess maybe could you talk a little bit? There's a lot of the community, especially in dynasty leagues, is down on Ezekiel Elliott. Talk a little bit about why you like Ezekiel Elliott so much.
Well, I mean, first of all, he's an elite running back in the NFL. I mean, are we going to deny that for a second? Like, again, when and Jason brought this up earlier, so many guys on the offensive line went down. We were working on third string dudes, and you know, your elite quarterback, your franchise quarterback goes down with a season-ending injury. When those things happen, you cannot expect the running back to just all of a sudden be the offense. Like, defenses are not stupid. They know, okay, wait, Andy Dalton or Zeke? Who am I planning for? They're going to plan for freaking Zeke Elliott. And for me, like, I mean, I could list off freaking numbers for days. It's like, I don't want to go into that because I could say, you know, Zeke, blah, blah, blah. But for me, it's if you look at the splits, right? The first 5 games, Zeke Elliott had two games over 100 rushing yards. Like, and that was one thing that people criticized him for, including myself. Like, hey, he just had his first 100-yard rushing performance in the last 10 weeks. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. Dak Prescott isn't there. Like, if name another starting quarterback in the NFL, if that guy goes down, how much do you expect out of that running back thereafter? You know, and the truth is, he was the RB10 in fantasy football. And
it was a down year.
That's what. Thank you. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, it was a down year.
It was,
but his down year is great for almost anyone else.
That's what I'm saying.
Your expectations in fantasy, that's the problem.
So people that are saying cut Zeke, we don't need him, he's trash. They're not. That's just ridiculous. Because for me, give me the guy who on a down year is still a top 10 running back in the league. Give me that guy. Like, that's who I want. A guy that has no protection because the offensive line is trash because of injury. Give me the guy that their star quarterback has gone down and he's not performing Zeke-wise. Like, this is where fantasy and real football separate completely, because fantasy football, he didn't do well for your teams. Like, he didn't do what you drafted him for, right? However, he was a top 10 running back at the end of the year, but you drafted him to be a top 3 guy. Like, whatever, dude. Fine. But he still produced. Like, it looked like he didn't, but he was a top 10 running back in the NFL, like it or not, with all those situations. Now, you got to start a year as if, like, injuries are, everybody's going to be good. Like, we're good. We're back to normal. Dak is back. If all things come into place, people are going to feel dumb for selling Zeke in 2021.
I was just about to say that. Buy Zeke. He's probably so cheap. Honestly, I'm not going to lie. I got him in a Dynasty League last year for Odell Beckham and Damian Harris.
See that? Beautiful.
Really, it's knowing who you're playing in a league with, because I know I won't be able to do that. And, like, I don't know. I have to find the guy. To me, Zeke Elliott is a guy that, like, I don't like personally, but he's a great asset to the Cowboys. And the only thing that there was that stretch where he had the fumble issue, and that's kind of what hurt you in fantasy, is like giving the ball up and giving the ball up again, and then not getting to play for a little bit while Pollard comes in. I mean, Pollard also had his fumbling issues. Don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Kacey, would you say you're hypnotized by Ezekiel Elliott?
Oh my God, Calvin, dude, host of the year, this guy.
No, my whole thing with Zeke is I think people get too involved in the fantasy stuff, because there is so much stuff he does that they don't do stats for, like pass blocking or going in motion and coming and cracking down on a defensive end and putting him on his rear. You know what I mean? Like, they don't have stats for that. I don't get a point for that. You know what I mean? So that, and then, like, if you are like, look, we're all Cowboys fans, so we probably watch him. I watch him obviously a little more closely than other people do, but like, dude never falls backwards. Like, I'm looking at his stats right now. So if I told you we didn't know who it was, I said 979 yards, 4 yards per carry for 6 touchdowns. And he had no offensive line.
I know. I agree. That's one thing. One thing I always loved about Dak was that he always falls forward. Whether it's a half-yard gain, 1 yard gain, with almost any other running back, it would have been a 3-yard loss. Like,
yes, or 1 yard for any other running back is 4 yards for Zeke.
Stuffed right away, yeah.
And that's why yards per carry, I hate that freaking stat. Like, I hate it, because you can have a negative 4 yard run and then go off on a 17-yard run and then rush for another 3 yards. It's like, and then you're like, oh, wait, the dude's averaging like 12 yards a carry. He's freaking awesome. It's like, it doesn't have to be that pretty, and the whole running backs don't matter. That happens in fantasy. I'm not behind that, because it's like I want to know really what that means, because if running backs don't matter, then why are you drafting them on your fantasy teams? Like, why are you doing that? Like, it's ridiculous. Like, there are only a handful of running backs that you can confidently draft where you're like, this dude means something. Derrick Henry, he's one of my favorite running backs because he's a pure runner. Like, he might not catch the ball, but he doesn't need to with how well he runs it. Like, I love those type of running backs, and it doesn't happen often because the game has changed too much. So running backs do matter. That's all I'm going to say.
See, I think where it really started hurting running backs is when PPR came involved.
Exactly.
And in my personal opinion, and the way that we do it in my Dynasty League, because I think that's because basically what you're doing is you're totally discrediting workhorse running backs. So we actually offset that by doing a 0.25 point per carry. So You know what I mean? So this way, workhorse running backs, because there are so few of them now.
So few.
You know what I mean? There. How many guys are getting 20 carries a game? 4, 5?
I was gonna say less than 5. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, not many.
Not many. So like the workhorse is a dying breed. And there's very few guys. And that's where if you get one of those guys, that's where you separate yourself from everyone else.
We're coming up on an hour. Nate, I want to let you get a word in here on Ceedee Lamb because I know you had some Ceedee Lamb knowledge you wanted to drop on us.
Ooh.
Well, no, it wasn't knowledge. It was kind of like the whole like what was the moment in 2020 that like I took away, right? And for me, it was that freaking catch by Ceedee Lamb against the Vikings. And I mean, he looked like a ferret the way he bent his back like in a way that I could never do. And it was the way he made that catch was just impossible. It is I want to know like the advanced metrics on that and what the percentage was that he was actually going to make that catch. It had to have been less than 5%.
I think it was like 1.9 if memory serves. Don't quote me on that.
No, I want to see it. I got to look that up now. So guys, if you guys find out at me, let me know because I know it had to have been less than 5% for him to catch that ball. And to me, that was like I was already leaning in this direction, but after he made that catch, I was thinking this dude is the wide receiver 1 for the Dallas Cowboys in 2021. No doubt about it. What he did in his rookie season, first of all, rookie wide receivers very rarely actually pan out. Like there's a lot of hype behind them, but there's a lot of stuff for a wide receiver to learn, right? It's not, you're not being handed the ball and say, now go run, find a hole. Like, and I'm not saying that's so much easier, but you got to run routes and it's like so many intricate things with wide receivers. And that's why they don't normally pan out in the rookie season. So what he was able to do on a consistent basis, regardless of who his quarterback was, he already shown he was quarterback proof as a rookie. To me, that was the pivotal moment where I looked at him and I was like, this dude is going to be the number 1 guy in Dallas in 2021. And that's what I took out of 2020, which, a lot of fans, Cowboys fans, even if, hey, we're not even talking about NFL for a second, everyone hated 2020. I mean, it was just awful year for everybody. So that was the one bright spot I took from it. And I think that, me saying that he's going to be the wide receiver 1 next year isn't even bold. It shouldn't even be a hot take. Like, I think that was my biggest takeaway. And that's why I love Ceedee Lamb so much. I just watched him grind and he just found production where it wasn't supposed to be. And he made me excited to watch this team going forward.
Kacey, any other juicy information you want to talk about on the Dallas Cowboys?
I don't think Blake Bell's going to be there anymore. No, I don't have any other juicy information.
Well, awesome. So I think that's going to do it. So one last thing is it was really cool. I saw that Jason Witten had some offers for pro teams, for collegiate teams to go coach. He's going to be coaching a high school. And I just think that's so cool that he took a job as the, let me see the name of it, the Liberty Christian High School.
Doesn't surprise me.
That was such a cool thing. Signed a 1-day contract. Do what?
I think his kids go there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that. I think that's such a cool. He just seemed like such a great guy, like that, just great ambassador for the Cowboys. The kind of guy you want representing your team and your city.
Whoa! What's up, Matt?
Well, we definitely know there's probably no more offers in the broadcast booth for him after the last stint.
Whoa!
No. Oh, come on, hating on a good dude. That Zeke Sanders.
Better.
Oh, man, that's awesome. Nice, man. I love it.
I heard we're doing a Cowboy show, so I made sure to saddle up here for it.
And you got the handlebar going too, man. That's beautiful.
I do. I need some big and rich, a little bit, maybe a little save a horse, ride a cowboy action. Will be good to go.
That's right. There was one season I was the commissioner of a league, and I called it Save a Horse was the name of the league, and my team name was Ride a Cowboy. So it's like I had everybody in on it, and they hated it because I'm from New England, and they're like, "What the hell is this shit?"
Well, if I start pulling on my dance moves here, it'll certainly hypnotize you. Am I doing it right, Calvin?
He's doing it. Nice.
I don't think anybody even caught my juicy comment. My
Casey.
juicy comment.
Casey,
Well,
look what you started, Casey.
That always happens. I love it. Anytime that a podcast can be Biggie Smalls related, like anywhere in there, it's like I did my part. I touched the podcast the way I should have.
So just so that you know, Casey, I'm a Tupac guy. Sorry.
You know, that's what happens. You know.
No, I'm just.
Oh, you can't appreciate both. You got one or the other. These are beefs, homie.
So we're right at an hour. Kacey, just one last plug for exactly where we can find you and what you're working on.
Okay, you can find me on Twitter at the Kacey Kasem. I write over with the fantasy footballers, and I have a podcast called Get Real with Kacey Kasem. Just go search it and find it, and you'll find me. Yeah, it's all good.
Awesome. Jason, last word for you and where we can find you and what you're doing.
Yep. You can find me on Twitter at DFFJ Waltner, also on the gram, DFFJ Waltner, and look out for Capology 101 starting back up real soon.
Very cool. Nate?
Yeah, at Dominate FF right here. Am I doing that right? Yeah, here we go.
Yes.
There we go. Yeah, and then all my content right now, man, I am bought in with the Game Day NFL. So you can follow me there. I'm producing weekly videos. I just recorded my way too early top 10 tight ends. So look out for that on Twitter. So that's where you need to follow me, Twitter, and then you get everything else because I just spew my content continuously, and you know it must be at an annoying rate, but hey, I'm doing something right. I think. I hope.
No fantasy football Snapchat or anything. Nothing like that.
TikTok.
No, not yet. I mean, it's in the talks.
MySpace.
It's in the TikToks. We're TikToking about it.
Now, Nate, we all know you. We all know Nate has an OnlyFans. Don't lie.
Fantasy football OnlyFans. I think that's what we're.
There you go.
Hold up. Yeah.
Tap.
A little preview.
Fantasy
Cowboys clam chowder.
Cowboys clam chowder. I love it.
There we go.
Matt, any last word before we take us out of here?
So you guys piqued my interest here as soon as we started talking about the draft. I do think the best play in the Cowboys book would be to trade back, get a few assets. We know they're tight against the cap. Get those cheap salaries in there. There's some good offensive linemen, especially swing tackles, offensive linemen that can go inside and outside. So that with the way the Cowboys line got beat up last year, you guys mentioned that throughout the show. Getting one of those versatility type guys like Vera Tucker, he'd be an absolute stud there. I do think Jerry. I mocked in my last mock Kyle Pitts to the Cowboys because I think Jerry, if he's sitting there 10, that's going to be too hard for him to turn down. I do think there's 3 corners that they could, if they traded back. We talked about Surtain. You guys talked about Farley. I love J.C. Horn too. Good length, good guy you get a little bit later on in the draft. And Asante Samuel's a guy you get either late first, early second as targets on that end of things. And of course, the Micah Parsons, that middle linebacker for Penn State. Leighton Vander Esch has had his own little issues there.
I know.
Jay Waltner, you could probably talk about what LVE looks like if he was to leave the team and how to bring Micah Parsons in. And it's just a cheaper contract to bring in at some point. So definitely something that could be looked at. We have I'm getting Calvin to come off work early tomorrow. We've got about a 30-minute spiel with Jim Nagy tomorrow morning. At noon Eastern. So
no way, dude. Wow, congrats. That's awesome. Huge.
We talked to Nate earlier in this offseason about being loud when it's quiet, and we've certainly tried to be as loud as we possibly can right now. So, and Kacey, love your show. That's one of the best shows out there right now.
That's the thing that makes me the most happy. So thank you.
Well, thank you to all of you.
Well, just real quick, I just want to drop one thing real quick because he brought it up. Big decision coming up on LVE, Leighton Vander Esch, this offseason. They have to decide whether they're going to pick up his 5th-year option or not. So that will give you a sign of what they think of him.
Yeah, good call.
I got to have you on to talk about Saints cap at some point, Jason.
Oh my God.
We'll talk about that later.
Is an hour long enough? Yeah,
it's going to be like a two-parter.
Thank you guys for everything that you're doing in the community and all that. Thank you for coming on the show. If anybody for some reason is not paying attention to what these guys are doing, make sure you're doing that. Matt, you're killing it too. Follow me at Calvin and Hobby. And yeah, we got a lot. We got 60. We're halfway there. We got 16 of these team spotlights done. We got 16 more to go. Having a blast. And yeah, we'll definitely catch you on the next one. Tune in tomorrow.
Go Cowboys.
Maggie.